Yeah, outside of Jimmy Butler, because he has been the man, averaged 33 points per game this year against Boston, and his odds to score 40 points at BetMGM tonight are plus 750. He's done that 8 times in his career. So we were talking about Tatum dropping 40. I think, honestly, Miami's best chance to win is Jimmy Butler putting on his Superman cape and going out there and having a 40-plus point game. So maybe you look at those odds. But you asked about somebody else. We heard him a couple of minutes ago, and it's Bam Adebayo. I mean, that guy, not so much about the points, but the rebounds. When he goes out there and has those 10, 12, 14 rebound games, to me, that's the big difference maker. It's not that hard sometimes, right? Like you look at Boston, and are they knocking down their threes? Then they're winning. Miami, are they getting rebounds? Then they're getting extra possessions. Then they're winning. And so I think you have to look at Bam Adebayo as one of those guys on the Miami side that's a true difference maker. And the one that I love the most is actually a Celtic that nobody really talks about, Al Horford. You talk about guys that have started to knock down their threes. His over-under tonight, PJ, is only sitting at 7.5. He had 12 last game. He had 8 the game before. He averaged 9.5 points per game during the regular season. So he feels kind of like one of those guys where, ho-hum, you're not even going to realize it. Maybe he hits a 3 at the end of a quarter, gets a breakaway layup, something like that, hits another 3 late in the game, and all of a sudden you look up and you got that 8 points. 8 is more than 7.5, and you cash your ticket. So I love that Al Horford prop tonight.
Yeah, that's another good look at 7.5. I mentioned Kevin Love. His points prop tonight is at 5.5. Again, I think he could hit 2 threes, so I think he can go over that. I like that quite a bit. Another prop I was searching, you mentioned you need Bam to step up from Miami. I agree, and I think the ball's going to be in his hands a lot tonight. He's going to play a lot, obviously. But Bam has had 3 or more turnovers in 3 of the 4 games in this series. Over 2.5 turnovers tonight for Bam is minus 105. I like that. Every game the rest of the way for Boston is obviously a Game 7. If they lose, they go home. So I expect their defense, especially at home, to be very good tonight. I expect them to be solid on that side of the floor. I think that could correlate to some turnovers from Miami. So Bam over 2.5 turnovers is another look I like.
Of course not, because when Mahomes signed the contract a few years ago, it was so eye-opening, right? I mean, you just look at the numbers, and it wasn't even the $50 million per year as much as it was the 10 years. Like, I'm not good at math, but that's $500 million over the length of the contract. So now that we're a few years removed, and we can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks in the NFL are getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes. That was the bargain of a lifetime for the Chiefs, right? Like, they're looking back at that, and they're going, we got away with one. Now, obviously, you heard Patrick Mahomes say he doesn't mind, that he's more about legacy and not about the money. It ain't like this guy's going out there playing for peanuts. He's not a waitress that's making $2 an hour plus tips. He's the 7th highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL, and he's still making $45, $46 million when it's all said and done. I don't have any problem with that. Here's my problem. When you look at a few of the guys that are making more money than him, so here's the highest paid quarterbacks right now in the NFL per year. Your guy, Lamar Jackson, 52 per. Jalen Hurts, 51. Aaron Rodgers, 50. The next 3 guys ahead of Patrick Mahomes, these have to be 3 of the worst contracts in the history of the NFL. Again, if I'm about to say Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, okay, cool, whatever. Here's the 3 guys that are making more money than Patrick Mahomes. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Deshaun Watson. I don't think any of their teams are going to the playoffs this year. I don't think any of those guys are in the top half of the league when it comes to best quarterbacks. So in the case of the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, I actually think if you asked me what NFL team has found themselves in the worst situation this year and going forward, I would say it's the Cardinals by and large because of the Kyler Murray contract.
If you look at the American League right now, actually, I did all these Rookie of the Year stuff with Ken Barkley when I filled in on You Better You Bet. And one of the things that he pointed out that I didn't know, because he's a big futures guy, that the AL Rookie of the Year usually, or I think the last 7 years, has gone to the rookie with the highest WAR. And right now, I think Cano has that. If he gets a few more saves, he's going to make the All-Star team. Every time he gave up a run, and we're like, all right, let's just move past that. Finally, he gave up one. We don't have to worry about the streak. His ERA is 0.35 and his WHIP's 0.37. It's unbelievable, and nobody saw this coming. They got him in the trade for Jorge Lopez with the Twins when everybody was killing the Orioles for moving a couple pieces last year. And now they have this 1-2 punch at the back end of their bullpen that, frankly, it might be the best in baseball. You'd have to look at some other teams and compare. And nobody's even talking about Baker, and he's been pitching well. So I'm kind of excited to just see what they do. But, yeah, man, Cano has just been amazing. And I do think he'll have an outside shot. He's already got, a couple of saves, and if he gets a few more opportunities here and there, could he get to 10 saves? When you look at that, all those holds, the ERA, the whip, the strikeouts, I think you'd have to put him up at the top. I know Yoshida was up there, but again, I don't know that he was like, I think 6th in WAR when we were talking about it, but he got really hot at that time, and everybody was talking about him being the favorite. And I still think Gunnar Henderson, he's another guy here. Like, I thought he was going to be better than Adley, and he still may. The kid's special. Like, I'm just telling everybody, like, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson are going to be something for this team to build around for years. I mean, there's so many different things we could look at regarding this team. They're loaded in the farm system, which is nice to finally have. And then seeing a team go through a rebuild, it sucks. We've all been – like, if you've been there and you're watching your team actually go through that rebuild, it sucks. So now what we saw last year, everybody's like, is this a mirage? Like, what's going on? Because they have the lowest payroll in baseball, and they're competing for a playoff spot. And then coming out this year, there's a couple things to look at. When Adley Rutschman got called up, he's now played in 162 games. The team's won 95 of those games. And I'm not saying it's solely because of him, but I think he's had a lot to do with it, with controlling the pitching staff and, of course, what he does every day at the plate. I mean, you can make a case already that he's the best catcher in baseball. I'll wait for that. There's still some good ones out there, but it's just a lot of fun to watch these guys. They were called a bulldog last night by their manager because of the way they attack, and I love it. They're fun to watch. It's finally fun. Like, it's nice to have a team that wins. Like the Ravens, I remember all those years with the Baltimore Ravens, and fans were like, oh, I like low-scoring football. It's like, shut up. No, you don't. Nobody likes 13-3. Nobody likes that. We want action. And now when you watch the Orioles, they're a fun team, and they're actually a good team, and they still haven't even begun to spend money. If you ask the Ravens, they would say there's no gap. And if so, they think they're ahead, even though Joe Burrow's got the best of them the past couple of years. There's no doubt about that. I mean, going back 2 years ago, I think, what did he throw for? Almost 1,000 yards against them? It was just, it was ridiculous. It was like 890 yards in 2 games. They destroyed them. But it is weird. Like, people forget that back in the playoffs last year, the Ravens should have beat the Bengals. They fumbled on the 2-yard line with Tyler Huntley trying to reach the ball up, and the fattest guy on the field ran the ball 99 yards for a touchdown. So, like, weird things happen, man. But with Lamar back, you kind of feel like they should be one of the – I understand them not being the favorite in the division because Lamar's been hurt the past 2 years, and what Cincinnati's done. They're a really good team. But they lost some pieces in the offseason. I'm interested in Cleveland. I really want to see what Deshaun Watson's doing, how he looks. Elijah Moore being there now with some other weapons, if that team can kind of get back in the swing of things. But I do think it's going to be a tough division. You never write out the Steelers. Like, I think they're the 4th best team in this division. But what is that, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins? Like, none of it would surprise me. I think they're going to be muddled right there.
I don't know what it is with Jaylen Brown. I mean, really poor series. I know he's had some ailments along, but I mean, first of all, everyone's hurt at this point, but a lot of bumps and bruises for Jaylen Brown over the course of the postseason. I know he split his hand open before the postseason on like a vase or something weird, and then he may have like reopened that like gash. I think it was game 1. Bam, like he was diving for a loose ball and fell on his elbow. So I think it's kind of like a cumulative injuries for Jaylen Brown that's kind of aiding his poor play. But yeah, I mean, listen, Malcolm Brogdon, they were just saying on the broadcast, he has this torn ligament in his elbow or something now, so he can't shoot anymore. So the Celtics, if they wanted to come back in the series, they need Jaylen Brown to give. They're going to need at least one Jaylen Brown game of the 3. It looks like this is going to be the Jason Tatum game. Maybe they get some more, 3-point avalanche from the supporting cast, but they're going to need one game where Jaylen Brown puts together a positive effort, and I think that's what they need to really push ahead in the series. I just don't know if you're going to see that. Whether it's injury or whatnot, Jaylen Brown does not look healthy whatsoever.